In this world, the so-called witches exist. They possessed unimaginable abilities and were thus deemed as the incarnation of evil. Our protagonist Chen Yan, who was a modern-day engineer, crossed into a body of a medieval prince, who devoted his life to merging modern industrial technology and the magical abilities witches possessed to build a strong kingdom where he meets his witch harem. The story begins with Chen Yan feeling someone calling him, tapping him on the shoulder and whispering in his ears, "Wake up, Your Highness, wake up." He heard. Slowly opening his eyes, waking up confused, not knowing where he is, sitting on a cold metallic chair, in his very own eye, sees a strange landscape, with small wooden and brick houses, and a bunch of people standing together and chanting something he couldn't quite understand. The memory in his brain seems to be connected suddenly. He is in the body of Roland Wimbledon, the fourth prince from the kingdom of Grey Castle, introducing us to the fight for the throne decree, created by Roland's father, a decree to decide who will become the successor of the throne. All 5 of his children are assigned a task, sending them to 5 different territories, and evaluate based on their abilities to govern during 5 years. He then will decide who becomes his successor. Chen Yan, from now on, we will refer to him as Roland. Roland soon realized this is not a real-time strategy video game. It was not a fair competition, since the starting conditions of everyone is not equal. The story then briefly introduces us to the 4 other princes and princesses. The first prince possesses extremely high martial strength but a muscle head. The second prince is ultra-wealthy but insidious. The third princess, whose military strength and commanding attribute is over the root, also very ferocious. Moving on to the youngest princess, highly intelligent, beautiful but quiet. Last but not least, our protagonist, Roland, the fourth prince, spends all his time drinking and indulging in pleasure, and loves courting death. He was assigned to this border town where a bird wouldn't even want to poop at, an underdeveloped town with a low population, poor, and where excrement is casually dumped around. Roland covers his head, understanding how terrible of a spot he's in. Before he finished his thoughts, a body of old men, with faces full of gray hair, urged Roland to start the execution. Roland looked around, and he sees people standing at the center square, all looking towards one place. It was the gallows, a medieval instrument used to execute criminals. On the gallows, a hemp rope was tied on top of a person who was wearing a dirty gray shirt and had her hands tied behind her, with her slightly raised chest, long blonde hair, and skinny frame. Not hard to tell it was a female, shivering on the stand while the wind blew past her hair. Roland condemned such behavior in his mind, can't believe what he is witnessing. Not understanding why would people do such a stupid thing. Release that witch, Roland yelled loud and clear, leaving his minister, his guard, and the residents in shock. Roland tried to play it off by saying he was tired. He wanted to do the execution another day. Suddenly, Roland's chief knight named Carter tried to dissuade Roland to continue carrying out the execution. Since the identity of the witch has already been confirmed, she must be killed. Afraid of other witches might come and rescue her. Roland, looking at the knight, thinks in his mind, a knight whose arm is bigger than an average person's torso is afraid of girls half his size. How ridiculous. Roland walked away, saying, it's better to attract a few more witches so they can catch them all together. Without explaining further, Roland headed back to his dilapidated castle, shutting his door and sighed. Roland finally had the time to process what was going on. He must have died from overworking and got crossed into this world. Roland soon overcame the fear of transitioning into an unfamiliar world, accepted his identity as Roland, and decided to dig for more information about this world. Later that day, Roland and Carter, the chief knight, slowly climbed down the stairs, arriving at the bottom of the border town's prison. Carter continuously warns about the danger of a witch, but Roland simply taunted him, saying how could his chief knight be scared of a girl. Moments later, they arrived at the bottom of the prison. This was a small cell, covered with thick metal bars. In the cell, a girl curled up in the corner, wearing the same dirty thin gray shirt, had her hands tied behind her back. She stood up, staring directly at Roland. Roland blushed as he saw how beautiful the young lady was. She had light blue eyes, calm like a lake. He couldn't see any fear, anger, or hatred in her eyes. Roland asked her to walk closer so he can have a closer look. Carter immediately jumped in front of Roland, demanding her to not walk close and warning them again how dangerous a witch is. Roland tapped on Carter's shoulder and told him to calm down. Roland then asked to hear the witch's story. She then explained, her name is Anna, and his father used to work in the mine. But the mine collapsed, and he was trapped inside. A mine worker seized the opportunity and stole away the valuables on him. It was caught red-handed by a neighbor couple of Anna. The thief